I checked into my hotel last night and I
Mm-hmm.
had gotten off the plane, spray tan, because I was like, I need to be tan for my interviews and things.
Mm-hmm.
Nike sweats. Yeah.
Sure.
I normally look really good when I travel, but this was like the one exception. I check into my hotel. The first person I see when I turn around, Senator Jon Ossoff.
Oh.
I've interviewed Jon and I know Jon, but I was just like, of all of the people and of every single person in office, that is the last person I would want to see me looking at my absolute worst.
Who's the first person you'd want to see you looking at your absolute worst?
I would say like Nancy Mace, because she wouldn't know any better. She
Right,
would
right.
probably think that I looked good.
Mhm.
Any Republican, I think, would be totally fine. Mitch McConnell, given that he's like usually hooked up to some kind of life support machine, I don't
Sure.
think he would notice anyway.
Right. Anyone over a certain age, you just look young.
Yeah.
You know, when you look back on old pictures of yourself, you just, whatever the ways in which you thought, oh, I look good, I look bad, you just looked young. And that's how all old people see you. So even on your worst day, you're just young.
No, that's so true. I need to remind myself of that.
I know, that's a little mantra I tell myself.
No, I think that's
Mhm,
great.
mhm.
What other mantras are you telling yourself these days?
Fake it till you make it. One of my favorite lines actually is from a book by Kurt Vonnegut called Mother Night. It's about an American who pretends to be a Nazi in order to be a spy for America to help win the war. But then everybody who he worked with dies. And so America thinks he was a real Nazi. And the line from Kurt Vonnegut, the author, is, "We are what we pretend to be, so one must be very careful about what you pretend to be." Something like that. I paraphrased it. But that's
Oh,
the
I
idea.
love that.
Good for politics.
You are what you pretend to be and fake it till you make it. I feel like those kind of go hand in hand with
Or
each other.
they're in complete
opposition.
Yeah,
That's
not
what I was.
sure.
I'm like, I don't know which one. The reason I don't like fake it till you make it is people talk about imposter syndrome all the time. I've never had that a day in my life.
Oh, okay.
I think that's like a silly, dumb, made up thing that you should just tell your brain to stop doing.
Mhm.
But I think, and that's how mental health works.
No, for sure. There's a line from, I can't remember what season of Vanderpump Rules, but a person says, "I'm feeling really nervous," and Sheena says, "Don't be." And I just always think about that. But why don't you stop doing that?
No, period. Someone, oh my God, what is the name of this ridiculous reality show? I'll have to look it up. But she was like, jet lag isn't real. It just means you're uncultured. She's like, I don't get jet lag.
Sure.
I'm cultured.
Okay.
The
Sure.
reason I don't love fake it till you make it is because I feel like a lot of people who have imposter syndrome, it makes sense because if you're telling yourself fake it till you make it, fake it till you make it, and then you make it, you're like, well, I faked it. You know?
Right. I guess that's a good point.
We're pondering some big questions on today's
yes,
episode.
I'll have to take that with me.
Yeah,
I'll have to take that home
just-
with me.
just
Unpack
noodle on
it.
that.
Yeah, I'll think about that one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jon Lovett.
Hi.
So excited to have you join Mean But
Thanks
True.
for having me.
I would just point out that Crooked did pass on this podcast, but I still made it to the podcast studio anyway. So you know what?
Okay.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Like HBO saying no to Mad Men, you know?
It's
They blew it.
It's literally on the same level.
That's what I think of. Because I think of us as the HBO of people sitting around saying Trump is bad.
Oh, and I like that.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
For my audience, just give them a little background on who you are, what you do.
So I was a speechwriter for President Barack Obama and for Senator Hillary Clinton in reversed order. I worked for her in her Senate office and on her campaigns, worked in the White House during the Obama administration. I did serious speeches. I did the joke speeches, worked on those. Eventually decided I wanted to make a big shift. I came out to LA. I was a comedy writer for a while and a screenwriter, TV writer for a while. And then in the run-up to the 2016 election, my former White House colleagues, Jon Favreau, Tommy Vitor, and I, along with Dan Pfeiffer, who was a communications director for President Obama, started a podcast. The podcast was committed to helping people understand the election and to reassure them that Hillary would win. And so got it halfway.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we decided we didn't want to go back to our day jobs. We'd all felt the pull of politics. And so John, Tommy, and I started Crooked Media. We launched a podcast called Pod Save America, the idea being that there's a lot of noise and a lot of cynicism and a lot of anger, a lot of coverage that treats politics like a game and that somehow manages to be really self-serious without actually talking about the stakes of what's happening to the country. It's like this kind of pious, holier-than-thou voice from nowhere, while at the same time worrying about polls and kind of treating the people listening like they're on a safari, watching animals in the Serengeti as opposed to citizens that actually have a stake and a voice in it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's the show. And we try to talk about politics the way people inside of campaigns and who've worked in politics talk about politics when the mics wouldn't be off.
Are off.
Yeah. And from there, we built Crooked Media, which is our company. We have Pod Save America. John and Tommy host shows like Offline and Pod Save the World. I host Love It or Leave It, which is a comedy show, a live touring comedy show that we do live shows in. I do live shows in LA. I do live shows across the country. And we built Vote Save America, which is meant to be something that helps you figure out how you can turn your kind of anger and your worry about what's happening to the country, or your hope that things could be better. There's a right amount of hope that we could have.
Totally.
Not too much, not too little, into actual change, especially when either you don't know where to begin or you've supported a campaign or two because you like the candidates, and then you're like deluged with text that you can't figure out where to go and who to believe. And our idea with Vote Save America is sign up. We won't spam you. We will just tell you the most effective ways to get involved, the best ways to donate, the best ways to volunteer. And that's it. That's Crooked Media. And that's the podcast network that we've built here.
That's amazing.
And YouTube. It's all about YouTube these days.
It really is all about YouTube.
What with the algorithms and so on.
Which, by the way, if you're not a subscriber on YouTube of my channel, it's Suzanne Lambert already, please do subscribe. We don't need all the boys running the YouTube show over here. Kind of boys running the show on each side of the political spectrum. So just trying to get more of the girls in there. There's so much there that I want to ask you about, starting with speech writing. I think the job of speech writing is so fascinating. And I think that it'd be so interesting to get a little bit of the peek behind the curtain, because as listeners and as voters, however you want to look at us, when a politician has a funny speech, it's always attributed to the politician, right? It's like, oh, they're so funny. So walk me through what it's like. You know that Obama has an event on X day. And is it just like you write a speech? Does he give you edits and rounds of revision? Like how does that, just walk us through that process? I have no clue.
So it really depends, right? Because the president gives a lot of different kinds of speeches. Sometimes they're really short remarks just to update people on the economy. Sometimes it's going to speak to the Boy Scouts of America or a group of scientists. Sometimes it's a big policy speech. And then sometimes it's a big, huge speech, like a State of the Union. And each one requires a different level of attention and rounds of drafts and so on. But let's say you're doing a speech about the economy and the president's going to travel to Iowa to speak to farmers about the economy. You would start by just reading what he said in the past. You got to really kind of make sure you understand what's been said. And if you've been a speechwriter for a while, you're kind of fluent in what the person you work for has been saying. And so really you start with that because it all has to be consistent. And then you're meeting with all kinds of people. You're meeting with the communications advisors that may have a steer in terms of the message you want to hit and what has been testing well in the polling, or there have been focus groups and this is the best way to make an argument about this kind of healthcare policy. Then you're going to...
Actually, can we pause right there? Can you talk a little bit about when you say focus groups and message testing? Like what does that actually look like in practice?
Every campaign is different. Every politician is different. And there are politicians that are just completely led by what they're hearing from either public polling or private polling and focus groups that they're doing. They're really yoked to, kind of really pulled by, what should I be saying? What do people want me to say, right? But there's another way to think about what polling and research can do, which is if you know what you stand for, right? And you know the policies you're trying to put forward, it can be very helpful to understand, like, what's the best argument, right? So an example might be, let's say on immigration, right? You want an immigration policy in which you have a strong and secure border, and you want an immigration policy that's generous towards people who are already here and people who might come in the future. There's a lot of different ways you can say it. And so one version might be, we need a fair immigration system in which people can build a better life in America and contribute to the American dream. And you might think, oh, that sounded nice.
Sure.
Or you might want to say something more like, we're a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. If you came here illegally, you should have to pay a fine and go to the back of the line. But at the same time, we welcome people from all walks of life because they enrich our whole country and make our economy stronger for everybody.
Right.
And you would say, and you would ask a group of people, like, well, which one makes more sense?
And it's just like random people in a room who signed up to take a focus group.
Yeah, it can be based on some demographic profile that you're trying to look at. It might be people that you've talked to a few times in the past. Maybe just a broader poll.
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't be about a politician deciding based on polls what to do, but it would be a way of saying, hey, I really believe this is the right way forward. What's the most effective way to talk about it? And it does help you understand, what are people worried about? What maybe they're on board, but they have questions and concerns. And so that all influences how you think about how you might write a speech. And then you kind of have to put all that aside and just tell the story you want to tell. It should inform what you're doing, but it shouldn't determine what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you talk to policy people, you talk to the political people. At the White House, there was a whole research team that would fact check everything. If it's a big speech, you might talk to...
Are they still working there?
Well, this is the whole
that team got laid off as well.
I can't tell you, like, just as somebody who like took pride in being in a White House where you knew that you don't get everything right and you make mistakes and you get facts wrong and no one's going to be perfect and policies don't work the way you think you're going to do and websites don't work and whatever. But you know you're working with a group of professional people, and some of them may have been in government their whole lives. Some of them maybe came from campaigns. Some of them are academic. Some of them are from private business, whatever. But they all understand that their time working in the White House is an extraordinary opportunity, is really important, and is a chance to do the best work you can do and to work really hard. And there's a clock on it because it's a one term, 2 terms, whatever. And you really feel that when you're working on speeches, or at least one would if you were in a different kind of administration. And you're talking to these incredibly smart people. And as a speechwriter, you're not an expert in every policy area. You don't know the most about the history of these issues. You're not an economist. You're not the best political person. You're not a pollster. You're not even the best writer in the world. But you draw on all of those skills together and try to provide for, whether it's a senator or governor or the president, what they need to have a draft that helps them hit the marks they need to hit, ideally and as close to what they would have said had they written it themselves as possible. If it's a big enough speech, you might talk to the president before to get some kind of feedback about what direction he might want. Or if it's something you have a few days in advance, you would send a draft in advance, get some feedback that way, either handwritten notes, or you would go and meet and talk in person. And then you just iterate, you go back and forth, you kind of drill down and get the speech right. And the fact checking was so intense. And people took it so seriously. I remember I wrote a draft of a speech it was either a speech for scientists or for NASA. I don't remember which speech. But I made reference to the fact that astronauts had been in a capsule that had rotated 7 times before coming to a stop. And the fact checker said, well, it would have to be 7.5 times because it started facing the Earth. So can we say more than 7 times? Maybe that was too careful. But man, do we lose something when you go from having that level of care to having a White House that is just completely untethered to reality, completely untethered to the facts, disregarding what the lawyers and the economists and the experts and the military leaders, just throwing out all of that and just saying whatever they want, because it means you can't trust a word out of these people's mouths.
Totally.
And that's obviously bad for the country, but also it's bad for them. Nobody takes them seriously.
I just can't imagine that they are super happy. Like, despite controlling all the branches of government and quote unquote getting what they want, I mean, they seem pretty miserable.
No, I don't think they're happy.
No, right?
I don't think so.
Imagine being a speechwriter. Well, he can't read, is the alleged. Pete Davidson says that at the table reads for SNL, Trump literally didn't read anything because he can't read. That's straight from the mouth of Pete Davidson. I wonder what it's like as a speechwriter to be writing something knowing like, oh, the accuracy of this doesn't matter. He's not going to stick to a script anyway if he even has speechwriters. Like, that doesn't feel like that would be a very fun job.
And Stephen Miller is often the person who is the kind of head speechwriter. I don't know what his title is technically, but he's always been one of the speechwriting leads for Trump and writes in this sort of overly dramatic impression of what good writing should sound like. Like the carnage and the blood and the soil and it shall reign for 1,000 years. Kind of like C+ Santa Monica fascist writing this sort of nonsense. Just like Pete Hegseth does this too. He goes in front of the Pentagon press and he does these sort of he rhymes. Like earlier today, or was it today? He like said something like, the sun was rising and over the dewy tarmac, and it's like, what did ChatGPT give this to you? Like, you're the Secretary of Defense. Just tell us what's going on.
Right.
We don't need a haiku about it.
We don't need a boozing Dr. Seuss to give us his rendition of the events. Yeah, no, it's so funny. Was there ever a moment when you were a speechwriter that you can remember when you really kind of pushed back either on a member or elected you were working with? Did that ever happen where you kind of had to advocate like, no, this is the best wording, or did you always just kind of have to go with what they said?
The job of speechwriter is a strange one. You're in this very kind of technical political world, and your job is to do something that's outside of all that, like, yes, you're trying to get the facts of the policies all right, but you're also trying to figure out a creative story to tell and find an interesting way to convey an idea. So that's one aspect of it. The other is my view of what it is to be a speechwriter, and others may think of this differently, is you are providing them with what they need. Your job is to give the candidate what they need, and their job is to know what they should be saying, right? And the speechwriting process is often a place where a lot of big decisions are being litigated. Like the State of the Union is both a way of saying what the administration's priorities are, but the process of writing a State of the Union is actually about figuring out what those priorities are going to be, right? You're forcing everybody into a room and to write down, what are we going to say about what we're pushing for? And all of a sudden, a bunch of people who thought they knew what the priorities were or thought they were in agreement realize that, oh, there's actually disagreements here. That's why writing is such a useful exercise for us as individuals, because sometimes you don't really know what you think till you start writing something down, right? You think, oh, you have a lot of floating notions and ideas, but then you sit down and you actually have to like make the argument, lay out the facts, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, this is helping me actually figure out what I think to write this down. And that's true in speechwriting too. But it's really like, if you're sort of viewing yourself as a tribune for the people, as opposed to a facilitator for this team, I think it's a really tough place to try to like make it about what you think and what you think is best.
Because you probably did know what was best sometimes, though, you know?
Well, there are moments where you'll say, look, I think this will really work. And in terms of like rhetoric and style.
Sure.
If you're writing about the economy or you're writing about healthcare, like I may personally think, oh, I wish we were going for a more aggressive health plan. But when you're actually in it, you realize, wow, like in order to get this through Congress, these are the compromises you have to make.
I hear you on that.
But then there were like social issues. And I remember when I first was a speechwriter, this was 2004 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Republicans were putting bans on gay marriage. Gay marriage was not nationally or even popular. And so Democrats, a lot of them took the position that they were not in favor of marriage equality, but they weren't in favor of the bans and supported civil unions. It's classic Democrats.
So yeah, straddling both lines.
So Democrats were for civil unions, but it's amazing how far we've come. When I say that that was like an applause line, like if you sat in front of a group of like the Human Rights Campaign and you said, Republicans are trying to enshrine discrimination in the Constitution and we're not going to let them, we believe in civil unions, that would get applause, right?
Wow, the bar was that low.
That's what progress is.
Nothing. Yeah.
That was what progress was.
Sure.
That was a big deal when a lot of Democrats came out for civil unions at the time. And then over the course of the next few years, I watched as it went from being like an applause line to all of a sudden Democrats being like, what? Marriage. This is not enough, right? I watched that happen. And I remember like working on those speeches. And at some point I remember walking in, and I was working for Hillary Clinton at the time. I just walked in and like, I just said, hey, I know we're working on this speech. And I think it was a speech about maybe it was against the amendment, but also saying she was for civil unions, something to that effect. And I remember just saying, hey, just so you know, I'm gay. And she then said, I remember what she said. She looked at me and goes, oh, Jonathan, I knew months ago, which was really funny. I'd only worked for her for a short while.
Clocked by Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, one of the few people on earth to call me Jonathan. So
that's
that was
funny.
And that was my way of just saying like, hey, like I see why you're at this place, but just so you know that the person working on this is someone who
really cares about this issue. Was that scary to do?
I was quite nervous. It's been 20 years since then, basically, but I am still a 23-year-old, completely in over my head in my first speechwriting job, like terrified. That way of being still like comes over me.
Sure.
It's interesting.
No, that is interesting, especially given all that you've accomplished and all that you've done. I just think speechwriting is such a fascinating job. Is there anything for people who want to get better at public speaking, just as a speechwriter? Is there anything you would recommend?
My main piece of advice about speech writing, before you've written a word of what you're actually going to say, write down what the goal is. Like, why are you speaking? So if it's a toast for, say, your sister or your brother, you are up there because your goal is to convey what you love about this person. That's 1. It is 2, to tell a couple entertaining stories about them. And 3, to take a moment to appreciate the day and what brought everyone here together, right? And then write to those 3 things and nothing else. One thing that I see a lot of, especially when people are nervous and they don't do a lot of public speaking, I'll do an impression of what happens. Hey, everybody. Wow. Okay. So excited to be here with all of you. Everyone looks amazing. Oh my God. Everyone looks so amazing. Jess, I cannot believe we're here. And I just have a few things I want to say to convey just like how excited we are for you and how much we love of Joey too. Like we do love Joey too. And like
we promise.
what it just means to all of us to get to be here. And so that's like what I want to talk about today. Everything that I just said, cut it.
Yeah.
Just start with, why are you here? Like you stand up there and say, hey everyone, my sister is my best friend.
I love that.
Just say
Because
the thing.
You know what I hate? For those who don't know me, just you literally don't have to say that. My name is Jon. My name is Suzanne. I don't like the for those who don't know me. That drives me nuts.
And by the way, I think like the same applies to like if you're presenting at work, if you're in a job interview, you don't have to do a big dramatic slow build to what the point is you're trying to make. Like what is it you're trying to convey? If you can convey all that in less time, no one's ever gotten to the end of a speech and says, boy, I wish that was longer. Never in history. Never.
That's so valid.
And by the way, if you're nervous about speaking, you'll get confidence from it by saying something big and true. And like when President Obama was doing comedy, those comedy nights, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, those speeches, it was always really important what that first joke was, because that first joke sets the tone for the rest of it. And I remember the very first joke we told. He stood up at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's when the president tells jokes to all the press. And he says, I'm honored to be here in front of the White House Correspondents' Dinner Association. All of you know me. Most of you voted for me. And it was just a simple, and I'm not remembering exactly,
Yeah,
but it was just a
that's
simple
good.
joke. It was a simple, clean joke. Another one years later was, boy, time flies, was in his second term or maybe late in his first. He goes, I'm not the strapping young Muslim socialist I used to be. Just a little clean first thing. And so like that's my advice about speeches. Start and end your thinking about it with like, what is the core goal? Why am I standing here? If what I am saying does not tell the story of why I am standing here, then you probably don't need it.
I think that's fantastic advice. That's something I get asked about a lot. And I like that you said ending it too. And then we'll move on from this, because a good piece of advice that I got was like, if you don't have to have a big splashy ending, but just make it known that the speech is over or whatever it is over. That's the best thing you can do. Don't trail off and be like, so yeah, because that's what a lot of people do. You can literally be like, and that's all I have for you today. Like that's all that it has to be.
And if you want to see a version of a great speech that is like actually one of my favorite speeches that actually has a bunch of silly stories in it, but is tight and does this, it is by Elaine May, who spoke for Mike Nichols when he was received a Lifetime Achievement Award. And it's weird and strange, but it is like she had a story she wanted to tell, and you won't believe how strange it is, but it's actually moving because you like kind of lock into like, what is a person standing here and what are they trying to do?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'll totally check that out.
Yeah.
We'll link it in the comments.
My timely references, Elaine May from Nichols and May, a comedy duo from before I was born.
Not gonna lie, I was like, don't know who that is.
No, I know.
Will totally look them up and learn everything I should know about them. I really should be more cultured in that space. I'm like weirdly online and offline at the same time. People always give me shit for not knowing people. I should have known this one. I was just very out of place. I was trying to figure out the entrance for Soho House in New York City. It was my first time going. So I asked the gentleman that I saw standing outside if this was the entrance for Soho House, and he said yes. And my friend Matt was like, oh my God, I can't believe you just talked to Matthew Broderick. I was like, is that Soho House? And he
Honestly,
was like,
that's
yeah.
great.
He was
That's
super
great.
nice. He was super nice about
You
it.
were right. Your friend is wrong.
Right?
You're
I'm
right.
like,
Friend's wrong.
whatever.
Just a person.
Genuinely, like, people will be like, do you get nervous talking to these politicians? I'm like, they work for the government. Why would I get nervous talking to a politician?
Yeah. They're just people.
That's
we
how I
We don't have
feel.
royalty in this country. They're just people. The less nervous you are, the better chance you'll have of a good conversation. So
Totally.
let it go.
That's something I've tried.
Don't be, you know?
Don't be nervous.
Don't be.
Don't have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That's an Irish Catholic upbringing for you.
Mhm.
That's how we handled mental health growing up. It was just a lot of, you're having trouble paying attention in class? Well, try harder. And then you get diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 26. You're like, oh, got it.
Mhm.
Is there any low stakes gossip or info you have on any of the electeds you worked for? For example, I learned that Joe Biden drinks a ton of orange Gatorade. Do you have any little fun facts like that? People really love that one too. And orange is such a random flavor.
And Hillary Clinton loves hot sauce. She always had hot sauce with her.
What kind of hot sauce?
I don't remember. I think maybe it's just Tabasco, but she always had hot sauce with her. I don't remember which kind.
That's badass.
Yeah.
I like that. So you started Crooked Media
Mm-hmm.
with your two best friends. What is that like to start something so big with your best friends?
We were lucky in that we didn't know what we didn't know. We decided we wanted to launch a podcast. We had a podcast with The Ringer, but we wanted to launch something on our own. I had been in TV writing. They had been in consulting together, and we had a little bit of runway, some time to get something off the ground. And we said, all right, if we can launch Pod Save America and get back to the audience we had, right? Like we have 6 months to get back to the audience we had, then we'll be okay. And because we launched at the beginning of 2017, and it really was this moment where people were looking for a place where they could be part of a community of people trying to figure this out, the audience was back right away, and we realized we had something. And the truth is, like, we knew how to talk about politics. We knew we wanted to build a media company around this mission, but it was really because we brought on a really great business lead, and we brought on a person to be our head of content, and we started building a really great team that helped us build the actual company around us. And as we've grown with each stage, the challenge has been making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're not from the business world, we're from politics, and making sure that we're like hosting and posting. Everything is sort of built slowly over time. And I feel like our job is to make sure that however this grows, like it still sticks to that core mission of a media company that is trying to build as big a pro-democracy movement as possible. And when you build a company with two of your friends, you have to learn, like, all right, like we're doing this together, and we won't always agree. And at times, like, we have to figure out how to talk about our differences in a way that you don't actually have to do that with your friends. When you're both friends and building a business together, like you really have to be thoughtful about like, hey, we're going to talk about something about where we're disagreeing or where we're not seeing eye to eye. We have to like really get to the bottom of it. The thing I feel really fortunate about is we all, from the first day, have like shared a sense of like the mission for the company and a set of like values about what it means to actually build a company that lives up to that mission, both as a business and public facing. I know that like whatever happens, like we are just loyal to each other and to the thing we've built. And so that is a great foundation.
That's awesome. The reason I ask that is I think everyone wants to go into business with their friends, right? But it's also, people always say you should never go into business with family. You should never work with your friends. But I feel like you guys have made it work pretty well.
Look, there are stories where it doesn't work and there's stories where it does. And a lot of times what advice is really more about the giver than the receiver, you know?
Like projection
Yeah,
of
sometimes.
their own experiences.
Sometimes.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, not always, but sometimes.
There's been a lot of discussions around influencers and campaigns and elections. There was a piece written by a publication recently, and I think the headline was "The Infestation of Influencers in Politics," which is a very interesting choice of words. I'm not naming the publication on purpose because I don't think it deserves any clicks. I'm just curious for your take on that. What role you see influencers playing in politics? Because there's a lot of people that seem to think that influencers are ruining campaigns. There's a lot of people on the campaign side who seem very irked by the presence of influencers, while also acknowledging that they're a very important part of the media ecosystem. Just like your general thoughts.
Yeah, I don't agree. I will attack the premise of it, which is a candidate, a politician, elected, someone seeking office. They're trying to get their message in front of as many people as humanly possible. You're trying to get into the local news. You're trying to meet people on the street. You're trying to make national news. You're trying to get on CNN and do a hit on CNN because maybe some people in the district will see that, or it'll get headlines, or it'll help you raise money. You're trying to do national press in part because you need to raise so much money. You're trying to talk to influencers with national audiences. And sometimes that means just doing an interview. Sometimes there are places where like it's a game show or it's a specific format, whatever, do it. But I sometimes think when people say they're bothered by this, really what they're saying is they don't like how their candidate comes off in some of these places, or they feel as though it reflects poorly on the candidate, that somehow if the candidate talks to an influencer who is silly in some way, or I think it's pronounced a woman, that it makes it the candidate seem less serious. And to me, that is not an indictment of influencers. That is an indictment of the candidates, because the problem I think a lot of Democrats have is people don't have a gut sense of what they really care about. That doesn't mean they don't know that they're better than the Republicans on taxes and healthcare and Social Security and immigration and gay rights and trans rights and all the rest. But other than the left of the Democratic Party, like Bernie Sanders, he can go on Joe Rogan, he can go on Hassan Piker, he can go on CNN, he could talk to Megyn Kelly.
He went on Theo Von.
He can go on Theo Von. And when you see Bernie in those places, it doesn't make you think Bernie's changed at all. It doesn't change your view of him even a little bit, because Bernie's Bernie, and you know what Bernie cares about, you know what Bernie's fighting for, and maybe people would disagree, but my view would be if Bernie's talking to Joe Rogan, it's not because he's triangulating or giving up his principles, it's because he wants to take his story and his message to a different place and a different audience. Bernie can talk to anybody, and nobody's worried about Bernie changing, and nobody's worried about everyone thinking, oh, you know what, ever since Bernie talked to Theo Von, I feel like Bernie has seemed more like Theo Von or less like Bernie. Bullshit. No one thinks that. Why? Because everyone knows what Bernie stands for. That is true when AOC does this. That's true when Mamdani goes and meets with Trump. Nobody thinks, oh my gosh, Mamdani no longer believes what he's believing. He's sort of capitulating to Trump. Because there's a core set of values that we all see in these people, and that we trust that wherever they are, we know who they are. And so to me, I am worried about Democrats who struggle to have that clear, consistent sense of who they are that infuses everything they do. They have an issue if they talk to somebody. They have an issue when they go in the wrong place. They're worried about what people are going to say if they talk to the wrong person. No, who you are needs to be so clear to us that you can talk to anybody. I want Democratic candidates who we can see in their bones. We know what they're fighting for, so they can talk to everybody. They can go on Joe Rogan. They can talk to Hassan Piker, even though he said crazy shit in the past that is offensive to me and to others, whatever. And like go out and tell your story and do it in a way that people believe it and that you can tell it anywhere. That to me is what when someone's like, oh, the influencers are annoying me. It's like, okay, get better candidates. That's my feeling.
I think that's such a fantastic perspective. That makes so much sense. On the note of Hassan Piker, because there's a lot of discourse about him. He's not my favorite person, not gonna lie. Don't hate him. When I saw him at the Crooked Con green room, it was fine, whatever.
I've interviewed him a couple times, and you know what we do? We disagree.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And that's okay. And I totally agree. I personally think it's great that Democratic candidates are opening up to going on these different shows as long as they're standing firm. To your point, here's where I push back a little bit. When people defend Hassan, they say like, well, he can reach so many young people and young voters, etc. And I'm like, well, yeah, he has millions of subscribers, followers. Like, clearly he's an influential voice. I would never deny that. I don't think anyone is. But from my perspective, I feel like he's reaching people who would already be engaged politically, because when I think of like my kind of random guy friends who are floating in a no man's land politically, a lot of young men and like people I grew up with are kind of like not really sure where to go. From my perspective, they're going to turn on Hassan Piker talking about neoliberal, imperialist, rad lib, whatever, and be like, this guy sounds like a weirdo. What is your perspective?
I think it's not as simple as, oh, we already have those people, or these are not the people we need to reach, or they're already on the left, as opposed to being more independent. Sometimes it's also about like just being in front of that audience and letting them get to know you, whether it's about making them agree with you or persuading them to vote, or just seeing that there's a perspective that's reasonable that maybe is different than what they're already hearing. Two great challenges when you're facing an authoritarian rising government, and this is true a few times in history. One is you're trying to prove that the institutions can work even when the other side doesn't follow the rules of those institutions. It's as if we're playing basketball and we're trying to not only win the game, but also convince the crowd that basketball is a game worth playing. And they're cheating the whole time. And we're like, no, the rules of basketball are pretty good. And they're not perfect, and we could change it here and there. But if we all followed the rules of basketball, we'd all have a better time. And they're cheating left and right, and they're doing all kinds of things. They're traveling, whatever. I don't know the rules of basketball myself. But we're trying to win a game while proving that the rules of a game are worth following. And Democrats have fucked that up repeatedly. The fact that the Department of Justice under Joe Biden wasn't able to successfully prosecute Donald Trump for an insurrection and for his other crimes left our whole country vulnerable. And something that Ruben Gallego, who's a senator from Arizona, said that I thought would put really well is he put the Department of Justice over the country. He put the impression of a nonpartisan department over the safety of the entire democracy, because he was worried about how it would seem if he moved too quickly. And legitimacy doesn't come from how things seem. Legitimacy comes from how things are. Legitimacy is something deeper than how it looks on television. Legitimacy isn't about what Republicans say it is. It's what it is. And it would have been wholly legitimate to go after Donald Trump, and he didn't do that. Didn't do it fast enough, and we will all pay a price forever because of that. So the institutions have let us down. Fine. But the other big challenge is when you are under threat like this, people are anxious. They are upset. They are cynical. They are worried. And it makes everybody a bit brittle. And it makes it easier to turn your fire on people who will listen, right? There's a lot of times where people want to fight amongst themselves because you want to complain to people that care about your complaints. And so we end up in all this infighting and we end up arguing with each other. Meanwhile, we have this overlap between these sort of tech billionaires and right-wing media and anti-democratic politicians. Pro-democracy movements don't fall apart because it's easy. They fall apart because there are real disagreements, huge, important, moral disagreements. I believe it is completely sincere when people find things that Hassan Piker says to be outrageous and beyond the pale. There are things he said that I agree are outrageous and beyond the pale. There are ways in which the left criticizes people who defend the indefensible in terms of the way Israel has conducted the war in Gaza, how it is treating people in the West Bank. I agree with that too, and defending it to me is ugly and wrong. These are real and sincere moral differences. We have to be a big pro-democracy movement that runs from anti-Trump Republicans all the way to the far left of the Democratic Party and beyond, and that will be uncomfortable at times. But that is our job. That is what we have to do. That is what it means to face the threat for what it is. It means you have to put aside those very real differences at times to recognize you're ultimately on the same team. And so that's why I think it is worth it sometimes to try to see us all as part of a coalition. Go on these shows, even if at times you find like what you're saying, like I think it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like that attitude underpins everything that you've done with Pod Save and Crooked. So that makes total sense.
We're trying to do. We're trying to do.
Yeah, that's great. Podcast is called Mean But True because we talk about things that are mean but true. I know you got something for me. Let's hear it.
I want to talk about astrology.
Oh, good. Thank God.
It is religion without any of the responsibility. Oh, you want to believe in some kind of a mystic, spiritual direction for your life, but without any obligation to a community, without any responsibility to a congregation. You want to see magic in the stars, but you don't want to volunteer. Must be nice. Astrology is to religion to me at times what Trump is to politics. You want Air Force One, but you don't want to do any of the morality. And it's like, okay, that's how I feel about it. I think it's mean but true.
No, that's valid. And it's like Melania, how I feel like she just wanted a Birkin. She didn't want all this. And who even knows if she got the Birkin?
She got the Birkin.
I hope she got, I honestly, I hope she got the Birkin. What is your sign? Wait, let me guess. Virgo?
No.
Pisces?
No.
Okay, what are you?
I'm a Leo.
Oh, you're a Leo. Oh, interesting.
It isn't.
Oh, it's not interesting? No, it's not interesting
No.
at all. I love Leos.
We got to get people back in the fucking churches. Everybody's got to go in the pews. This is classic Leo.
No, it is.
Now suddenly I'm a classic Leo.
No.
It's almost
Leos
as if.
are the lion. You're the king of the jungle. If anyone likes astrology, it's usually Leos. I realize that we're talking about the thing that you just said you want to disappear. People need to get
I didn't
back
say I
in
wanted to disappear. I didn't say I wanted to disappear. People are crying out for meaning. The world makes no sense. It is illegible to us. Community institutions are dying. We're spending more and more times alone in our homes, angry at our screens. We are falling down a hillside, trying to grab at things. And there's nothing to grab. And it's like, I'm being a classic Capricorn today. I just think there's something missing. It's spirituality without the deeper sense of purpose. That's all.
And sense of community and
an obligation.
Yeah, I was gonna say obligation to one another.
I'm gonna get so much shit for this. Come for me.
No, it's actually so true because astrology.
You Geminis.
A Gemini man ruined my life. They're all the same. I have something about everything you're gonna say.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Gemini men, they're all the same. This is what I'm talking about. Right in here, all right? There's a little ice agent inside your heart because we are fallen. Part of a great, great struggle between the good in us and the bad in us. And Gemini men, they're all the same. No, they're not.
Okay, you're a math guy.
No, they're not. When were Gemini people born?
You're a May. You're
May.
A math guy.
All guys from May are the same. That's not true.
You'll find this interesting. Serial killers are overwhelmingly, disproportionately Geminis and Scorpios. And I'm a Scorpio. But the Gemini, you're two-faced. So you present, which can be a great quality. Like, it's not to say two-faced is always a bad quality. It kind of means you're a chameleon. But for a serial killer, that makes complete sense why they would be successful serial killers.
It's almost as if these broad ways of describing people are kind of empty vessels. I have a feeling that if the head of the astrology department at, I don't know, Witches University came running through and said, we crunched the numbers and actually we've gotten all the star signs wrong. It turns out you're in fact a Cancer. And what are the qualities of a Cancer?
They're also a water sign, very deep, very sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you be able to tell a story about the life you've led as a Cancer?
You're going to hate this answer, but that would actually make sense because we're both water signs. So like this is already accounted for.
I don't want to yuck everybody's yum. If horoscopes are fun for you,
oh no, it makes me toxic. I've gotten mad at people I've dated for their horoscope, and that's when I knew I had to take a step back because I would read my horoscope and then I would read theirs, and their horoscope would say like, watch out for run-ins from your past, and then I'd be like, anything interesting happening today? And I'm like, who did they see that I don't know about? Who are they texting that I don't know about? So that's when I personally had to take a little bit of a step back. And I hear what you're saying.
And I'm just saying, you wake up, you can do it on Friday night if you're Jewish, you can do it Sunday if you're Christian. You put on something, it doesn't mean that nice. And you go, you sit in a room, you're bored for like an hour and a half. You hear some stories and some songs, then you go have brunch after. And you think, boy, that was boring.
Yeah.
Talking about church.
Yeah, no, yeah. I haven't been to a Catholic mass in a while, but
Catholic's tough. JD Man's converted to Catholicism.
Oh, and they're new money Catholics. They're not real Catholics. They're not real Catholics.
See, this is good stuff.
When you are raised Catholic.
Yeah, this is where
you inherently know. Almost every single guy I've seriously dated has been Catholic. It's not even a question that I would ask like the second, like you would find out later because we're just drawn to each other. You conduct yourself in a certain way. We're not making a big fuss like the evangelicals. We're not doing all that. They behave like the deep evangelical right. They're sticking their tongues out to get communion. That's weirdo behavior. He's a new money Catholic.
And listen, if religion's not for them, I respect that. Bowling. Go to bowling on Wednesdays.
Those are our options.
Go to bowling on Wednesdays. Have a game night. We all get together with people once a week in real life.
I'm hearing you. I think what you're saying is that we are really genuinely lacking an in-person connection. And I feel like something that you've done with Love It or Leave It, which is your touring live show.
Great transition.
Yeah, you should have
picked up the show.
You shouldn't have passed on my podcast. You see that shit?
It was tough. It was a difficult time.
I think what you've done with Love It or Leave It, and I would love to hear a little bit about that, is really create that community.
So we started doing Love It or Leave It, and basically it's a week in review. Right now we're doing it at Dynasty Typewriter in Los Angeles, but we've done it across the country at different places in LA. It's just a live late night show, but what's great about it is like, especially when we do touring shows across the country, it's just people getting to be in the room with other people laughing at the same stuff and feeling the same sense of like outrage and being part of that community. And it's a great way to like touch base with people about how they're feeling about this moment. I remember after the election in 2017, when we started doing the show, people were just not yet ready to joke about what happened. They joke about Trump, but not what happened, like how we lost. But over time, people like, they loosen up and they start to be willing to kind of think about it in a funny way. And I think there's something cathartic and good about that, because if you're ready to joke about something, it means you're really kind of ready to face it in a way.
Yeah.
And so like that's what we try to do. And we try to make a show that's like not like other late night shows, that is our own, because I think it is easy to be funny and cynical. And it's easy to be not funny and earnest. It is hard to be earnest and genuinely funny. Like John, Tommy, and I wrote this book called Democracy or Else, and that was the real challenge there. Like, can we make something that's like genuinely funny and genuinely entertaining, but that doesn't do like the whole like LOL nothing matters, and that is like really hard, but fun. And if you find it, it's fun. And by the way, also it's about being willing to make fun of Democrats, because like you're part of the family. Like we're going to joke about ourselves too, because there's plenty to joke about with Trump and we do it every week, but to just make fun of the Republicans.
Oh, we got to make fun of us
boring.
Too. I mean, we deserve it.
For sure.
There are some people on the left who should have gotten bullied and made fun of a little more, is my perspective. But
you're a big advocate for bullying. You've been consistent on that. You've been consistent on that.
No, but I mean, honestly, for me, it's kind of strategic, because online, I have a actually really diverse following in terms of where people fall on the political spectrum. And for a lot of people who I grew up with, I'm from Georgia, I went to UGA, right? President of Young Republicans, like very different background than you and very different from what I do now. I might be the only liberal voice that they see. I might be the only liberal comedian that they really follow, that they listen to. And making fun of people on the left is a good way to kind of bring those people into the fold a little bit. Because I'm like, the things that you don't like about Democrats are actually a lot of the same things that I don't like too. Like, we're not all who you think we are. And I don't really like a lot of those people either.
Yeah, like, oh, you don't want to vote for Democrats because they're annoying? We don't want to vote for Democrats because they're annoying. We do it anyway because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
But they annoy the fuck out of us too.
Of course. And I'm trying to make them less annoying. And a lot of them hate me and accuse me of being a secret Republican. And I'm like, dude, if I was going to be a Republican, I would do it out in the open. I would make 10 times what I make now. Like, let's be so for real.
Let's be real.
But I think that's very cool that you've done that with Love It or Leave It. And people should definitely check it out as it tours in LA and otherwise. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing with my tour. It hasn't been announced. Well, it's been announced, but we haven't put out the dates and cities yet. But just creating that space, because we hear from people like, you just want to be around people that you know share some value set. So I think that's really fascinating that you've done that so successfully. You had some really good jokes. I loved your most recent one with Dylan Adler. I've seen Dylan live, and he's so funny. I need to get him on the podcast. That's a good reminder. He and his twin brother are just so damn funny.
Let's get Dylan on the show.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to talk a little bit about Vote Save, and then we're going to move into the very last portion of the show. But just given what we've talked about, you know, people really want to funnel these feelings and channel these feelings of hopelessness and feeling like there's nothing they can do. I feel like momentum is starting to pick up. There's a lot of elections happening this year. I think it's like 37 gubernatorial races. There's lots of Senate seats. Every seat in the House pretty much is up for grabs.
Every one.
Which is wild.
Every single one.
So what is Vote Save trying to do to help with that?
So we have launched something called Project 218. That is our campaign to flip the House. If we flip the House, you can stop Donald Trump.
What's the significance of 218?
That's how many seats it takes to have a majority.
Okay.
218 seats is a majority. Every seat after that is great, and we need as many as we can get because if it's close, they'll try to steal it. But if we can get to 218, we can stop Donald Trump's agenda in the Congress for the remainder of his time in office. There will be no more big, beautiful bills, no more repeals of healthcare, no more efforts to cut Medicaid and Medicare and Obamacare to pay for a war in Iran. Like, those days will be over. Plus, you'll be able to investigate Trump. There's a chance we can also win the Senate. Do me a favor. Go to votesaveamerica.com and sign up. We will not spam you. It is one very quick thing that you can do to know that when you see a note from us, it is from a team that is really thinking about the best way to donate and the best way for people to use their time. And it is an effort to get as many people as possible to take action leading up into the midterms. And by the way, it's important not just for the midterms, but beyond, because politicians care what people think when they think those people are willing to engage and be part of the process. If you're not part of the process, they don't give a shit what you have to say. But if you're part of the process, you have more power both in an election and after. So please join Vote Save America. In 2018, when we first launched, that was the year we managed to flip, I don't know how many seats, about 50 seats, a bunch right here in California where we are. That made the difference. There'll be a bunch of close races. If Democrats had gotten their shit together, including Democrats in New York, we could have controlled the House. We lost a few races by a very close margin. We cannot let that happen again. So everybody needs to sign up, votesaveamerica.com, and I appreciate it.
Wasn't there a really recent election where it was like one vote or something actually insane?
There was a one vote election.
Right?
I think it was a local election, but it happens. It happens.
I was shocked by the race in Florida where we flipped Mar-a-Lago.
We flipped Mar-a-Lago. So that's
wild.
It is wild. So just so people know, this was a seat that a Republican previously won by 20 points. So that race, the whole district swung by more than 20 points. And people are like, oh,
gives me chills.
That just means that the Democrats turned out. No, because even though the Democrat won, more Republicans voted than Democrats. So it isn't just turnout. Like, they want something different, including people that may have voted for Trump. So there is momentum. That is important, but we will only successfully win these midterms, which is the first step towards defeating Trump and the Republicans that come after him, if people sign up and show up.
That's awesome. What's something you don't get asked often that you wish people would ask you?
What is something I wish people would ask me? I say everything I want to say. There's nothing. I don't really even usually wait for questions.
You don't need the prompting.
You could ask me, hey, how did that lemon coconut pie you made turn out?
And how did that lemon coconut pie that you made turn out?
It was exquisite.
Are you a baker?
I am.
A lemon coconut pie.
It was awesome. It was one of those pies where it was egg yolk and condensed milk and coconut milk. And you only bake it in the pie crust, which I also made, for 15 minutes, and then it has to set. And there's that moment where you just don't know whether or not it's going to set.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
Are you a
really
pie over cake kind of guy?
I love pie. I love cake.
Why choose?
Why choose? I don't know. I love all the desserts.
You have a wedding coming up. Are you
I
going to
do.
have a big dessert table, or are we doing traditional wedding cake? What's the plan?
We're gonna have a big old wedding cake, but there'll be other little items as well.
Did Ari tell you that I saw them on Friday night?
You saw Ari on Friday?
Yes.
Were you in Minnesota?
No, I was
in
in
DC.
DC.
Oh yeah, they were in DC
Like
before.
a Jane Fonda
Oh,
event.
yeah, they were at the Jane Fonda event.
we were
That's
chatting.
cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fiance. We're gonna get married.
That's so
They're
exciting.
still in. I think they're still in.
I think they're still in as
Yeah,
well.
they're in.
Yeah. Who's someone you'd like to roast and someone you'd like to toast?
Done it before, I can do it again. Really would like to roast Lindsey Graham. The idea that this guy is salivating, frothing at the mouth for more war in the Middle East, then leaving DC while the government is partially closed and heading to Disney World really is a fitting testament to the kind of person he's become, the sort of like sad, bellicose little Trump monster.
Did you see the fairy wand that he was carrying around? Mind you, this is a man with no children or grandkids. I do just want to really make that abundantly clear.
You know, it would make sense to me that he is some kind of a Disney adult. Apparently, I saw that there was photos of him online at the buffet at the contemporary Chef Mickey restaurant.
And you know what? I am low-key a Disney adult myself. That was a great choice of resort. A broken clock is right twice a day. Kind of like a lot of theater buffs, which I am not, but like a lot of theater buffs, even at the event that I was at on Friday night, said that Trump's review of Phantom of the Opera was heartbreakingly excellent. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
He is just, at the end of the day, a theater queen. All of them.
Yes, a lot of Republicans seem to have had two paths before them, one in which they would have gotten the lead role, or even like the Guy Masterson role in Guys and Dolls, just sort of like a good chunky supporting role, or they went down the road of authoritarian right-wing politics, and there's no going back to give them those parts.
And there's no clear choice.
No.
Which one do you choose?
They really just want to be showmen. I have someone I want to toast. I want to toast Project Hail Mary, the movie, because I read the book and I'm a nerd and I love the book and I was nervous about what the movie was going to do. And that movie's great. Project Hail Mary is a fucking movie. And all the jobs in entertainment are leaving LA.
Yep.
We're not making shit anymore. And everyone's like, oh, the movies are dead and people aren't going back to the theaters. Make movies. Project Hail Mary is a fucking movie. They made a movie. Make more movies. Make more Barbies and make more Project Hail Marys and make more big, fun, exciting, smart, beautiful, interesting, entertaining films. And then we'll go back to the movies. So I toast to Project Hail Mary.
That's awesome.
Because I want to go to a good movie again and sit there and eat my popcorn and have my edible.
Cheers to that. Oh my God. Heavy on that.
And have a good time in my recliner.
And we need some dumbass comedies to be made too. We need more Bridesmaids. We need more Wedding Crashers. We need more Step Brothers. Comedy is dying. And I mean, you know this better than everyone. A lot of that is because it's just these execs so removed from anything creative and all these jobs being replaced. I mean, it's a bummer. It's a huge bummer for comedy.
Make funny movies.
Make funny movies.
We'll go.
I ask every guest this. What's something you love about yourself?
That's so funny. I really have not been in therapy in a while. What is something I love about myself? I am a very good joke writer. I really am. And I take pride in the jokes we write for Love or Leave It. And I take pride in, I have a really great team of writers that work on the show and submit jokes. And Hallie Kiefer and Sarah Lazarus are two writers that work at Crooked, and they're incredible. And one of my favorite times, not my favorite time of the week, is when the three of us are just writing jokes together and trying to write something to our satisfaction and really trying to write something we really believe in. And I love doing that.
There's no feeling like sitting with your buddies and trying to make something creative or funny, and then you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're like, wait, it's that, but not quite this. That's such a fun process. For me, when I'm writing, it feels like a puzzle because you didn't say the words word economy, but I had a writing coach who talked about word economy. Say what you want to say in as few words as possible. And people might agree or disagree with that. I love Mark Twain, for example. So I've always been of the mindset of how short can I make this? How quickly can I get to the point, essentially? Which you wouldn't necessarily know from listening to this podcast. But when I write jokes, it feels like a puzzle. It's kind of like the thing you want to say, and then you're moving words around, whatever. And you're a big math guy, too. So I'm curious if you kind of see those two sides of your brain working together in any certain type of way.
Sometimes it's subjective. Sometimes it's just math. on jokes. It just is like, oh, the math of that doesn't work. The logic of that isn't exactly right. Why it doesn't work? It's you haven't landed the exact thing, or like that word's reminding people of something else, and that is kind of failing the connection. And you need to like think about it more and be more technical. So I think that is some of the most fun
It
parts of
is,
writing.
right?
Yeah.
Even figuring out a pause or like an inflection can completely change a
Yeah.
joke. That's great. What's something you're working on about yourself?
I also have the ADHD diagnosed later in life, much later than 26. And I've always known it and have dealt with it and tried to kind of power through. But right now I'm really trying to build systems in which I am able to deliver on the things I want to deliver on. It's absolutely true that the world isn't built. It's built for people that don't have ADHD, and that's like a frustrating part of moving through the world. But also, I think the truth of it too is at times the world isn't the problem because there are things you want to do you do not do.
Yeah, and building on those long-term goals. I can
Yeah.
very much get lost in like trying to execute on the to-do list, and I think that's a really good way to lose sight of the long-term strategic vision.
Yeah.
Something I'm working on too. Well, this was so great. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you and how can they support you?
Subscribe to Pod Save America on YouTube. Subscribe to Love It or Leave It on YouTube. Sign up for Vote Save America. Subscribe to our podcast. We also have a Friends of the Pod community where we do ad-free episodes and a bunch of bonus content, including an episode of Pod Save America called Only Friends. Where
Wait, I love that. That's hilarious.
we have a bunch of stuff that's just for subscribers, and it's a great community. Speaking of community, that you can be a part of. So you can sign up at crooked.com/friends to be part of that community and come see us at a show. We're always doing shows.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Jon
Thanks
Lovett.
for having
So
me.
amazing to have you, and I'll see you next Tuesday.